Alright, today we're going to continue with our ice cream shop project. Before we get started, there are a couple of you that are sharing the same document that I was using last week, and it should be labeled Ice Cream Shop 2020, and I believe this is the one that we're using here. So I've already created a copy of mine, so I'm going to go ahead and open this copy, and I'm going to show you how to make your own copy. So I'm going to click on this to open it. Just minimize these panels over here, and what you want to do is click on this menu in the upper left hand corner and do save as. Then you would change the name and click OK, and then it will ask you where you want to save it, and then you're going to save your own copy of this. That way we're not using and sharing the same file. Basically what we do when we share is if one person overwrites what they're doing, it will change for everybody else. So that's not a good way to work on our own individual projects. So go ahead and save as, and then make your own, or change the name, save it where you want to save it, and then you should be the only one modifying that. So why don't you go ahead and just change it and add your name to the file somewhere in the file name. That would be a good thing to do. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started where we left off. First thing first, I forgot a step. It's really simple. We're going to offset this top portion and make a trim similar to the bottom, but on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and select the offset tool. Let's see, that's found here where the push-pull tool is, the bottom of that arc of tools, offset. We're going to click on the top rectangle, anywhere inside there, and we want to offset on the outside by 3 inches. 3 quotation mark, enter. Then we're going to push-pull this up 2 feet. Just this trim border here, click on that, drag in the upward direction, and then type 2 apostrophe enter. So now we have a nice top trim there. Alright, so we left off with these awnings that we created, and each one of these is actually a component, and they're the same. So we copy this component over. We're going to go ahead and modify this. So we need to get into edit mode for the component. So I'm going to double click the component to get inside it. And you should see everything else turn this strange color. And that means you're in edit mode for this component. What we want to do here is we're going to try to copy this arc, this line here, and use this arc to divide this awning into 5 different sections. So we're actually going to be copying and dividing to create an equal number of segments. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that that arc line is selected. So you should just see that arc blue. Everything else should be, so if you clicked over here, you clicked too far over to the right, that would be too far to the left. You want to just click right on that line. Now with that selected, we're going to click on the move tool, and we want to get into copy mode. So right now it's just in move, and if I click on here, try to move it, it's going to really make that wacky. So anytime you're doing something that you don't want to do, you can simply press the escape key to get out of that command. So we want to be in copy mode instead of move. So I want to click on the control key one time. Just click it once on your keyboard. You see that plus symbol that appears? That means I'm in copy mode instead of move. So you can toggle that mode on and off with the control key. So now that I'm in copy mode, I want to go ahead and click at this end point. I'm going to copy it from this end point. So I'm going to click one time here. So I'm going to copy it from this point, clicked there, and then I want to move it to the end. So I'm going to click on this end point. And then while I'm actually still in the copy command, I want to divide that space by 5. So I'm going to click the slash symbol and then the number 5. So divide by 5 and then enter. So in between the first segment that I copy, this arc, and the last one, I have told it to copy that 5 times. So this is the first copy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and an equal spacing. So it did the math for me. It divided that distance by 5. So now that this is divided, you should see each of these faces are separate. So what we're going to do next is we're going to use the materials library, and we're going to paint each of these segments a different color. Actually, every other one's going to be a different color. So the materials are found over here on the right. You just want to scroll over it until you see the materials option. I think it's this single block here. So click on that and you should see materials up here. And I'm in the search or browse, so this is where all the materials are. I'm going to click on the home button. These are just common used colors. It's actually added a few that I've used. So I'm looking for a red color. I'm going to click on that and then scroll my mouse over, and you can see that it's turned into a paint bucket icon. So this is going to paint these segments with the color that I chose. So that's what we're going to do, is do a stripe pattern every other one. Alright, now I'm done editing this component. So I'm going to click on the select tool. Just click anywhere outside to get out of that component edit. Now I'm going to clean up my workspace a little bit by getting rid of these guidelines. So I'm going to use the erase tool really quickly and just click on each of these to get rid of them. And our next objective is we're going to add one of these awnings on the side wall here. So I need to copy this awning, shift it over to the edge, then rotate it to where it's on this face instead of this face. So the first thing we need to do is do a copy. So I'm going to go to the move tool, make sure I'm on the move tool, and I'm going to, this is very important, and this is what most people forget, is we want to copy this object instead of move it. So I'm going to click the control key one time. Now I want to make sure I want to select a good spot to grab this component by. So I eventually want to move it to this edge. So I want to choose something that's going to be eventually aligned with this edge, which would be this side. So I want to use this side to grab, so that I can grab from here and place all the way over here. So I'm going to click on this corner, then move it over here. And you can see there's a dotted red line that's following the X axis, or the red axis. So you want to make sure that you're just going straight across until you get to the on edge screen tip. So moving it to the edge of the wall, straight over on that red axis. So I clicked one time to place it there. So it should be aligned with that edge. So now what I need to do is rotate this object. And I want my pivot point to be right here. So I want to kind of pivot this whole thing over. So the rotate tool, this is the first time we're going to attempt to use this, so it's a little bit tricky. That's found where the move tool is, so I'm going to click there, and it's the one that has the double arrow that's in a circle pattern. So click on that, and this tool looks a lot like a protractor. So the first thing you want to do is choose a face, and that will be where your protractor gets attached to. So I am just scrolling my mouse over different faces to see which one I want to use to rotate on. So I'm going to just choose this face as an example. So if I choose this face, I'm going to be rotating along that plane, kind of like the face of a clock. So the hour hands, the minute hands rotate along that clock face. So that is not the right face to choose. So I'm going to escape out of that. And so I know based on what I just tried that I probably want this face. I want this to be the face of the clock and this awning to be the hand of the clock that rotates around. So if that's true, then I want to pivot specifically from this point. So before I click, I'm determining which face I want to use, and then I need to choose which pivot point to place the center of my protractor, or whatever we're going to call this thing. So I want to choose right here on this corner. Now if you scroll too far over to the face, it's going to choose this face. If you scroll too far over here, it's going to choose this face. Neither one of those are correct. So one of the tips that I'll give you is once you find the correct face, to lock it onto that face, you can hold down the shift key. It turns kind of a purple color indicating it's locked on that plane. No matter where I move my mouse, it's going to be locked onto that face plane. So now I can just simply make sure that I click on the corner of that face one time to place my protractor. So that's step number 1, determining the face and the pivot point. The next thing is your reference line. So on here I could choose this line or this line as my reference line. It doesn't really matter which one. I'll choose this one because it's probably visually the easiest to see. So any point along this line would be a good reference point. So I'm basically just saying I'm going to grab this object along this line. So I clicked one time, and now I can begin to rotate it using that reference line as my kind of, I've determined the minute hand or hour hand, whatever you want to call it, on the clock face, and now I want to move it into position. So it's actually a 90-degree rotation. You can see down in the lower right hand corner the angle changing as I move it, as I rotate it. So I want to go to a 90-degree rotation. Now the dotted green light is actually 90 degrees because it's perpendicular to the red line. So I could either use this guideline and just click as long as it's locked to that green line, or I could type in 90 because I know I want a 90-degree rotation, and then press enter. So now I've accomplished the task of rotating that awning to be flat against that sidewall. Alright, now we're going to learn another tool, which is the scale tool. We're going to scale this awning down. So the scale tool is found where the rotate and the move tool are found. It's the bottom one in that arc of tools. So we want to click on the scale tool and scroll over your object that you want to scale and click one time to choose that object. Now you're given a whole bunch of these little kind of handles that you can grab to scale down your object. So if I just wanted to scale down the width from side to side, I would grab this and move it that way. If I wanted to scale it the height, I would grab this little guy here. That's just adjusting the height of the object. I'm going to escape out of that. what I want to do is scale the entire thing. So I want to keep the ratio of height to width. I just want to scale the whole thing down. So that would be one of these corner options. That's going to scale both the height and the width. And it's, if you scroll over it, the screen tip says uniform scale about opposite points. So this point, it gives me a dotted line over to this point because those are opposite points. So I want to scale it down to where it scooches in away from this side line here, from the edge of the building. So I'm going to scale it from this corner. I want to scale it from the outward corner towards the inner corner. So I'm going to grab it from this outer corner here. I'm going to click one time and then drag towards the other corner. It scales down like that. So I'm just going to type in a value. So this would be anything above a 1 would be increasing the size. So you're going to use a fraction to get smaller. So we're going to use 0.6 as our scale. So it's going to be 60% of the original scale. So press 0.6 and then enter. Alright, so that has scaled it down, both the height and the width. And we're going to use this for a drive-through window. We're going to place a drive-through window in here. Before we do that, I'm just going to click on the select tool to deselect that object. And then I'm going to select the tape measure. And we're going to actually just measure out a guideline. So I'm going to click in this upper right-hand corner where this line is here, at the end point towards the wall. And then I'm going to measure down the face of the wall. So I might need to orbit around so I can see that. So I'm going to be on this face of the wall, measuring down. And I want to type in the measurement 3 apostrophes, so 3 feet. Enter. So that placed an actual point reference. So that's a different way to use the measuring tape, or the tape measure, whatever we want to call it. So before we were clicking on the edge and making a dotted line away from the point of origin, so a perpendicular guideline to our measuring tape. So if I click Control, now I'm making an actual guideline, so not one that's perpendicular, just following the path of the measuring tape. So those are two different ways to use the measuring tape. So, and SketchUp usually tries to guess which way you want to use it, but if you ever want to use it the opposite way, you would have to press the Control key to change the way it's being used. But this is actually the way we want it. We want to create a guide point, which is going to be at the end of this line. So now we're going to search for our drive-through window. So you need to type this in as I say it. So it's going to be SketchUp, all one word, SketchUp. And then you want drive, and then not a slash, what do you call it? Minus symbol, a dash. That's what I meant. And then you want the word through, but spelled T-H-R-U. So SketchUp drive dash through. Enter. This will give you the right one that we want to use. So make sure that it looks like this one at the top. Drive through, and that's window by SketchUp. I'm going to click this, and now I'm just going to place it anywhere in my drawing. I'm just going to go ahead and line it up over here, just click it. Now I want to move this, so I'm going to use the move tool. And I want to grab it from this corner, because I'm going to eventually move it over and match it up with this guideline. So I want this corner, so I'm going to grab it here, click click and grab. And then I want to place it right here on the end of that guideline. So click to place it. So now we have a nice drive-through window. Alright, next we're going to, we've learned how to use materials. I'm going to save that for later. That's just more of a fun thing to do. We have a little bit more work to do here to the top. So we're going to focus on the top. So I'm going to orbit to view the top of the ceiling here. And I want to be able to see the inside corner of the front. And I'm going to make a rectangle. So I'm going to go to the rectangle tool. And I want to make sure that I'm going to be drawing on this face. So once I get that screen tip that says on face, I'm going to hold the shift key down to make sure I stay on that face. And while I'm holding that shift key down, I'm going to click in this corner at the end point. Now I can release the shift key because I'm on the right face and I've clicked my starting point. I'm just going to drag away in this direction. And then I'm going to type in 30 and then apostrophe, so 30 feet, and then a comma, 2 feet. So a 30 by 2 foot rectangle is what we're making. Press enter. Just make sure that your rectangle looks like this. So that, again, that's 30 feet by 2 feet. Now we're going to push-pull this rectangle up. We're going to make the measurement, I think it's 6 feet. Let me just check here. Yes, 6 feet. So type in 6 apostrophe, enter. Now I want to push-pull these side walls to match the edge of the trim. So I'm going to start with the front face and then push-pull it out. And I'm going to use this face as a reference point. So I'm just going to push-pull it out to match this face. I'm going to do the same thing to the sides. So I'm going to push-pull this side out to match this face. Orbit around to do the other side. Alright, now that I have these push-pulled out to match, I want to get rid of these lines to make it all one solid. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the eraser tool, just click on these lines to get rid of them. Orbit around, get rid of this one here, and there's a little one left over here. There we go. Alright, now we're going to place a sign. And I need to search to see what. Let's go ahead and search for Sketchup for school ice cream. So we're going to search in the search box and material, or the components. Sketchup for school, then ice cream. So this is what you're looking for here, and it's by Michael J. Click on that and scroll over. We're going to place it. Let's see if we can get it to match. So I'm going to need to just place it. Then I want to actually grab it from the back side somewhere. Grab it along that corner, and then I can place it along this face. So I'm trying to get it in the center. For now, it's not super important, the exact placement. I can always move it around later. I just want to make sure it's in my drawing, and I actually want it to be kind of inset. So I'm going to grab it. Let's try from here. do that along face. Oh, that's too far. Pull it out again. So I want the text to be along the face. So I'm going to click along the back edge of the text and then line that up with my wall here. There we go. That's what I wanted. So the glass is kind of sticking in there, but the text should be lined up with the face of the wall there. Alright, I'm going to click the select tool just to get out of that move function. Now I need to draw a line across the top. I need to find the midpoint of the top. I'm going to draw a line straight across to the other midpoint. And then I'm going to create a rectangle. And I'm going to create actually two of them, one on each side of the top here of the front. So I'm going to click in the corner and drag along the front edge, and you can see there's a screen tip for square. That's a perfectly square, and then I'm looking for this one that says golden section. So once you see that screen tip running along the front edge, the golden section, you want to click there to make a rectangle. So do the same thing on the other side. Click there and then drag along the edge till I see golden section. Now what I want to do is actually grab this line. So I need to select it first. So I'm going to go to the select tool, select that center line, and I want to move this line up. So I'm going to grab the move tool and select this line in the midpoint. It doesn't really matter where you select it, it's anywhere on this line. So click on the line and you want to move that in the upward direction until you see on blue axis. Now if you're moving slightly to the side, you won't see that, or slightly to the front or back, you won't see it. So you want to make sure that you're going straight up. You'll see that on blue axis screen tip there, and then you can just click shift or hold shift actually to lock it to that axis to make sure it doesn't move somewhere else. Then just release your mouse and type in 4 feet, 4 apostrophe, enter. Alright, we're almost done with the design part of the main building. The last thing we're going to do is offset this shape here. So we need to go to the offset tool. It's found where the push-pull tool is, the bottom of that arc. And we're going to select this face to offset. And we want to offset this by 2 feet, I believe. Let me check my measurements. 10 inches actually. So I'm going to offset it 10 inches, 1 0, and then the quote symbol, enter. Now we're going to offset this, we're going to push pull it in. So I'm going to use the push pull tool, which is found right here where the offset tool was. And I'm going to click on this and then move it back to the on face of the original wall. So I'm going to use this as a reference point. Now I can get rid of this dividing line with the eraser. And now, because I moved that back, the text is no longer connected to the wall. So I'm just going to move it back a little bit. Click anywhere, somewhere in the text here, on that back edge. and then match it with the face of the wall. So I'm going to zoom out just so I can see where I'm going to place it. Maybe orbit. I'm just looking for mostly centered. I could adjust that if I want to, just to move it over a little bit. There we go. Alright, I think this is as far as we're going to get today, so make sure you click save, and we'll continue later.